Kivo, so a 2-0 victory over Wolves. Andre Bias, Liverpool beating Wolves finally. Do you see signs of resurgence, or are they simply limping towards the end of season?
I think it is resurgence more so. I think, the win over Everton, then Newcastle was obviously halted the mood when, they went racing into a 2-0 lead again, and Real Madrid just did what Real Madrid do and pulled them back, and obviously won the game in, an extreme fashion, 5-2, and, that kind of dampened things. But then, Liverpool had the chance to go to Palace and win, but probably that was one of the most boring games I've ever watched. Like, I hope you didn't watch it because you do not get that time back. And then, obviously, Liverpool play Wolves, which I didn't get to watch because I was at the better game on Merseyside last night. But yeah, Liverpool looking more comfortable. I think some key changes last night from Klopp to take Robertson out, replace him with Kostas Tsimikas. I think that helped. He got an assist later in the game for Salah after Van Dijk had scored. I think Nunes scored, but I couldn't quite work out. It was ruled out for something or other. I think Diogo Jota looked to be brought down, but I couldn't.
Yeah, so
Jota's
gone on an amazing run, and his return is. You did a lovely piece about reasons to be optimistic for Liverpool fans earlier this week. It was a tremendous public service, and I think Jota's return is a key point in that. He goes on this wonderful run past 3 or 4 Wolves players. Jinking, thank you so much. In the act of being fouled, he is then kind of knocked into another Wolves defender, which bizarrely is then ruled a foul by Jota, which is why Nunez's goal wasn't allowed to stand. This was at 0-0, so kind of a key moment, but Liverpool didn't lose heart and came back with a couple of goals. Remind me, who scored the first? Salah got the second, didn't he?
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk,
yeah,
and how he celebrated.
Jota,
like a tackle. He celebrated it like a last-ditch tackle.
Well, we haven't seen many goals from Van Dijk, actually, and his goals are pretty pivotal to Liverpool. Nice to see, obviously, Ibrahima Konate get back as well, because that's, I think, the pairing that Liverpool need at centre-half, because it just is solid, basically. They need that sort of ground. But yeah, it was good to see Van Dijk get back on the score sheet. I think what was important is Jota gets another game, really, because I think he, by all accounts, looked a lot better. But there's this really strange stat with Jota that he hasn't scored in like almost a year. So he hasn't scored for, I think, 26 games now, and 13 of those have been starts, which seems just baffling and bizarre given how, fundamentally important he is to Liverpool and was last season. And as soon as he joined from Wolves, he pretty just, took off, didn't he? And his goal record was just, felt like it was going to go towards the levels of Salah. And obviously he's been a bit unlucky with injuries, been out for such a long time now. I think goals would be the key thing for him. But his performances are almost so important in other ways. I think his pressing Liverpool have missed that a lot, just attackers pressing the ball a bit quicker. I think he does that, and obviously he gets an assist last night. I think there's 10 assists in those games, so he's being more of a provider and a creator at the moment. I'd like to see him, I think, get on the score sheet a bit more, because this Liverpool team are down on goals. Really, they need more goals. Obviously, 2 last night is helpful to their cause.
The comeback, Kiva, Liverpool now 6th with that victory. 6 points behind Spurs, who they still have a game in hand on, and also Spurs are Spurs. You've got Newcastle between those two teams. They've got 2 games in hand. You make the point that 2 years ago, a depleted Liverpool squad pulled off a very similar comeback to reach the Champions League positions.
I think it was, I can't even remember how many points it was, but it was ridiculous.
According to your article, they got 26 points from the last 30 on offer.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Alisson, that goal, we all remember that, probably the greatest moment of that season for Liverpool. Liverpool just somehow got there with, I remember, obviously we talk about Konate and Van Dijk at centre-back and how brilliant that is to see back. But, Liverpool had Reece Williams and Nat Phillips on the last day, bandaged up, sort of getting Liverpool over the line to top 4, which was vital, because Liverpool then went on to play in another Champions League final. When you think back to those moments, and how key they were. So I just think there's something about Liverpool right now. the form is sort of upturned. That Palace draw, had it been a defeat or something, I think, maybe we'd be a bit worried about them going forward. But I just think, they're set up perfectly now for this Man United game on Sunday. But unfortunately, so Man United.
So Man United, yeah. Last season, this game finished 4-0 to Liverpool. That was against Ralph Rangnick's Man United. Slightly different outfit, do you think, Jack?
Certainly, yeah. And I think this is the return leg of a game that was really fundamental in Erik ten Hag's kind of turnaround process. It was the first Premier League win for him, 2-1 at Old Trafford, dropping Maguire, dropping Cristiano Ronaldo. Kind of I suppose, ditching the old wood and
the old ingredients.
Yeah,
bringing in some fresh herbs.
Yeah, and playing a very fluid front three of Rashford, Sancho, Elanga. Obviously, we've gone back a bit to the stolid stuff with Weghorst, but that was a moment when he stamped his mark on United, and obviously, there seems to be a kind of snowball effect at the moment. So when they scored against West Ham, when they equalised, there was an inevitability about them scoring a second and a third, and that kind of very, Ferguson era Man United. Oh, here we go again. And that is such a good thing for a team to have. It really, the atmosphere, we spoke about the Arsenal atmosphere, appears to be really similar at Old Trafford, and yeah, looking up for them.
I imagine the atmosphere will be pretty good at Anfield, though, on Sunday afternoon, Caoimhe, for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was much better last night. At times this season, it hasn't been great. Obviously, when the team aren't performing well, it can sort of quieten the crowd a little bit. And obviously, I think we sort of you heard that at the Real Madrid game. It was so Liverpool fans were so up for it, and then Madrid do what they do, and it sort of quietens everything down. So I think it was pretty good against Everton for the derby. So you'd imagine it would be a similar sort of energy, given it's a big old rivalry, isn't it? And Liverpool really need to win this game, because you look at the table and Man United could go 13 points ahead with the win of Liverpool, or Liverpool could go within 7 points, I think it is. Ooh. So that's pretty nice sort of way to end the weekend.
The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.